Hey family, welcome to today's Wealth and Wisdom conversation. It was important to me that I navigated this Wealth and Wisdom conversation for Women's Month with a guest. She is a licensed comprehensive financial advisor, but beyond that, she is a wife, a mom, a woman who wears many hats just like so many of us. And at her core, she is passionate about legacy and wealth building, which is why I knew she'll be the perfect person for this conversation. Because as women, we're constantly trying to get our mind right, our spirit right, and our coins right. But to be honest, balancing all three can feel like a struggle in certain seasons of our life. And for many of us, that struggle didn't just start with us. We're carrying financial habits, fears, limiting belief, doubt, and so much more that's been passed down through generations. So today, in honor of Women's Month, let's talk about the woman who breaks chains. Thank you so much, Paris, for your yes and being part of our Wealth and Wisdom conversation, especially for Women's Month. I thought that you would be the perfect person and the perfect addition and the perfect guest to bring on to have this conversation with so many women that will be tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cheryl. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak on a topic that is so important to so many women and to really pay homage to what this month means to the both of us and everyone that we love and care for.
So let's talk about what so many of us as women in some capacity are carrying, which is the weight of being the one or being the first in our family to break some level of a generational cycle. And it's one thing to want better for yourself. But then when you're the first in your family or the one in your family, trying to shift the culture, trying to shift a generational cycle of limiting belief, of complacency, or even generational financial cycles, that can leave us as women feeling, it can be a lonely feeling, it can be
Yeah.
heavy, and it also can be overwhelming all at the same time.
Yeah.
So for the woman that's wondering and that's listening, where do I start? How do I start? Well, let me just first start by saying generational cycles runs in everybody's family. And I don't care what tax bracket you're in. I don't care if
Absolutely.
you are a 6-figure earner, a 7-figure earner, or an 8-figure earner. One thing you cannot do is pay off or pay out a generational cycle.
Yes.
So, for anyone listening, I don't care where you are in life, nobody is exempt from having to face off with the Goliath in their family to end a generational cycle. And if you're listening, you're likely listening and you're tuning in because you are the one to interrupt and to uproot this generational cycle. And so I believe there's two starting points to facing off with a generational cycle in your family. I believe that one, you have to have the rooting system in your faith, of which for me, for us, it is Christ Jesus. As he said,
Amen.
nobody gets to the Father except but through him. So your faith plays a part because you're facing off and dealing with a stubborn spirit, a spirit that is likely older than you, and likely it can be probably older than your mom, your dad, or even your grandmother or your grandfather. So you will have to have the rooting system. And we watched Goated series part 6 specifically.
We did.
And PD specifically talked about spiritual stamina. And you
Yeah.
have to have the spiritual stamina to deal with and to face off with this stubborn spirit. And one thing he specifically said is when the enemy knows that you're the one and he knows that he can't take you out, then his next position is to wear you out. And so
Yeah.
you have to have the spiritual stamina to be able to withstand this stubborn spirit. And it makes me think of the story in the Bible where the disciples were walking around and they were casting out, these stubborn spirits and these demons and other people. And this specific story, there was this one instance where they could not cast it out. And Jesus came full of his spiritual stamina, and he was able to cast out that stubborn spirit for it to loose that little boy and let him go. And shortly after, the disciples went to him and was like, yo, Rabbi, like, what was that about? Why weren't we able to cast it out? We've casted various demons out before, but this one specifically, why couldn't we do it? And Jesus specifically said, this spirit, this type, this stubborn spirit can only be cast out by two things, and that's by prayer and by fasting.
Amen.
And so through prayer and fasting is how you start to build up your spiritual stamina. And Jesus' spiritual stamina, when it went to war with that stubborn spirit had no choice but to leave and to let that little boy go. And so that is the starting point with facing off a generational cycle. The second thing I would say is you have to make sure that you condition your mindset. And conditioning your mindset is you have to let go of what I call is a poverty mindset, not necessarily as far as low income, but in regards to limited thinking, a lot of self doubt, believing that you are just not capable or this is something that you just cannot do. You have to shift that mindset into adopting and laying hold of an abundant mindset, a mindset that knows that if I partner with God, if I partner with building up my spiritual stamina, and if I continue to condition my mind and transition it from a poverty mindset to an abundant mindset, together we can make sure that we too can cast out and uproot this stubborn spirit within our family.
Amen. Well, so you don't even need me, Cheryl. That was absolutely amazing. And I think it's, important to identify from a spiritual perspective where you are, right? And then once we identify that, then we move into where can I place myself that allows me to gain the education to make these decisions that will take me into a new space and allow me to be that leader and that generational change maker. Um, and I was looking up some words before we got on, and the word decide, right? The root word of decide comes from the Latin word decidere, and that means to cut off or kill. And I think that's really, really important when you're deciding to take a financial journey. 99.9% of the time, you have to make changes that you're going to be uncomfortable with. Those changes are going to affect you, they're going to affect your family, and it wasn't designed to be easy, right? So the spiritual stamina that you're referring to, you're going to have to bring that into this new phase of life. But even more so, once you've made that decision that you're going to cut things and people off so you can achieve the goals that you have set for yourself, the devil's going to come in.
Yeah.
He's going to come in and he's going to, make you think that sometimes it's just as simple as making you think that you're missing out on something, or that, I don't have enough. And I've seen so many people, so many, Cheryl, do more with less than the people who have more, right? It doesn't
Mhm.
matter, like you said, what you have coming in. It matters what you've allocated and given an assignment to for your resources.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So there are so many women, Paris, who have grown up in households where financial education just wasn't openly discussed, or
Mhm.
maybe it was non-existent. And for a woman that may be watching this, who may worry about passing down some of the same financial struggles to her child or to her children, how does she begin to teach her child or teach her children about money when she wasn't taught much about money or wasn't taught much on how to manage it?
Well, first, I would say it's wise to connect yourself to somebody who can teach you, right? First and foremost, connect yourself with a financial coach or a financial advisor, somebody that you can trust and develop a relationship with over time, that can go through, identify where your opportunities are, how to kind of repurpose your money, and then, get your budget and your household in order. Once that is done, I would say allow your kids to participate. If you have a kid that's in elementary school, you can start, paying them for their chores and then showing them how to save money. I think the biggest thing is, especially being a believer, there's three categories that we want to place that money in. First is saving and paying yourself, right? Of course, there's tithing. There is paying anything that you owe, and there's also charitable giving. And so a lot of kids, they want to save for, that toy truck inside of the grocery store or Walmart. And let's show them how to achieve that over time. You can help them find ways to save. I know for younger kids, a piggy bank is really, really interesting to them. They get to see their money grow. It's right in their face. And then when you have a kid that is in middle school, you can start to get them a debit card, show them how to, manage $20 on a debit card so that they know how that account, if it, if they overdraw it, it goes into the negative. You can have them start working odd jobs. And the cool thing about when the middle schooler or your elementary school child is working, we can show them how to open up investment accounts if you connect with a financial advisor. And then lastly, maybe you have a high school kid or a combination of all these grade schools, but you can start opening up a checking account, showing the child how to balance the checkbook. And there are a lot of banks that offer those resources to kids over on the weekends. You can take them on a Saturday early in the morning for a couple of hours. They'll show them how to manage a checkbook, but it's really critical because I meet with a lot of young people And the conversation around not having the conversation is usually the topic of discussion when we first meet. Hey, I wanted to know these things, but money just wasn't talked about in our household. So,
Mm.
just some tidbits for the kids, but getting them involved, making them feel like a part of the process, helping them understand how you as a parent make financial decisions can definitely help them when they leave the house.
You saying that made me remember when me and my brothers were younger, and when we got our first jobs. I got my first job at 15,
Yeah.
and my dad and my mom had us our cell phone bill. We had to pay $25 a month out of our paychecks towards our cell phone bill. And when we started driving at 16, we had to pay $50 a month towards car insurance. Of course, $25 towards a cell phone bill and $50 towards a car insurance wasn't enough, but that was their way of teaching us give and take. This is what you make, but you also have responsibilities. And as you get older, you will gain more responsibilities, and it's up to you. And you have to learn how to balance out how to say yes when it's time to say yes, and how to say
Mhm.
no to protect your money and to preserve your money, because you can't spend it all because you have a responsibility of a cell phone bill, $25. And then our car insurance for $50. So that was a cool method that taught us very early on exactly, how to save our money. And my dad specifically was so hard on us with saving, and we also had to take $50 out of our every time we got paid, of which we did not have access to. My parents did, but what they did do to help us to learn, they would sit down with us every 2 months, and they would teach us how to read the bank statement. And that was their
Mm,
way of showing transparency with us, as
yeah.
far as we understand that you don't have access to the bank, but we are also showing you that no one's touching your money. And so that was our first encounter with dealing with the bank, with dealing with direct deposit, and also trying to understand how to read a bank statement and what does that even look like.
Amazing. And I bet when you left home, it wasn't as scary. You
Mhm.
probably made some mistakes, but not as many as you could have made if y'all didn't have those conversations and those lessons weren't taught in the home. So that is absolutely amazing.
Now, there are many women who may not have the support or resources that their parents once had. And what I
Mhm.
mean by that is, for example, using me as an example, my parents. My parents come from a different era where there were pension plans.
Mhm.
There were also, in combination with pension plans, in addition, there were the 401ks. On top of that, during their era, saving was the right thing to do. Of course, the cost of living was nowhere near where it is now. And so, for the person watching it, or the person listening, how can they start building wealth from scratch in today's time, with today's market, with today's cost of living, in terms of saving and investing and having enough, especially now that pension plans are far and few and it's almost becoming extinct?
Well, that is probably the best question you're going to ask tonight. And the reason being is because everybody's different. I do not have a blanket answer for where you land or how to do things. There's no blueprint that fits every single person. But what I will say is the starting point for any and everybody is looking at where you are right now. You have to identify where you're standing and assess the money that you currently bring in and where is it going. That's the starting point. And once we identify that, I think the very next thing we have to do is identify where you're trying to go, right? My vision of generational wealth may be completely different from yours, Cheryl. It may be completely different from the person who's listening right now, but at the end of the day, it does require an adjustment and a plan. And so working within a budget and kind of reorganizing your budget is the first step. The second thing is once you identify whether or not you have, a surplus or we're in the negatives, now we got to identify whether or not we can reduce our budget in any way, take away some things, even if just temporarily, right? We don't want to say no to Hulu and Netflix, but maybe if we just get, rid of one, maybe that $25 that we're utilizing for Netflix can go to starting to build our emergency fund Or if I have a $90 bill for Hulu, maybe I take the 25 for Netflix and just watch Grey's Anatomy for a month. And then, just give that money an assignment. And if that is difficult for you to do, again, connecting with somebody who has a like mindset with you, a financial coach, a financial advisor, somebody who you can trust to give you the truth, help you take a real look at where you are is definitely heading in the right direction. And after that, the goal is to start building a financial house. You want to make sure that your foundation is solid. And so anything that can stop your ability to produce or grow your generational wealth is what we want to try to focus on. So, do I have the right protections in place? Because reality is the most important thing that you can do is earn income. And if anything stops you from being able to do that, we can't grow or move into the capacity that we're trying to move into. And then also, if something happens to us and we're no longer here and we leave, our kids or our family without the wealth to take care of themselves, that can stop the generational cycle as well. So ensuring we have the right foundation through income protection and life protection ensures that we can move through the generational phase with a little bit more ease. And after your foundation is laid, I am definitely an advocate for the wealth building strategies. We're going to make sure our emergency fund is built. Where we place that money is highly determined by what the current market conditions are. And so again, sitting down with somebody who can make those assessments and say, hey, it's probably best to do this for right now. That may change in 2026, but having a partner helps you stay like in alignment with your budget. And so after you've established your emergency fund, then we want to look at, what are you doing currently with your 401k? If you have an employer that offers that, what type of match is available through your employer? How is your money invested? Because that is the first place we should look at. Because if somebody's providing me with a match, that's free money that I can use to invest towards my future. And then getting a roadmap to see, is this money that I'm contributing to a 401k enough, right? What else is available for me? Do I need to have, another individual retirement account? Where else can I place money? Do I do a CD? Can I get another investment property? Just identifying how much money you have to capacity, making a plan to open up that capacity over time, and building your pathway to financial freedom is the best way to start building generational wealth. I do have people who start jobs, second jobs, right? Because they're really, really serious about saving for the future. And I know that's not everybody's situation. Everybody cannot go and work, a part-time job, because you may be a single parent. You may be, already working 12-hour shifts at your current job. And so just maybe identifying some ways where we can have some passive income coming in, even if just for a while, can make a huge difference on your financial journey.
Now, one thing that always ends up happening is at some point, very randomly, very unexpectedly, life starts lifing.
Mhm.
And we face and are hit with perhaps unexpected large expenses or medical emergencies or some level of financial emergency right when we are leveled with our finances or trying to get leveled with our finances. So, how can we protect our wealth from financial emergencies so we can gain some level of financial stability? And is it even possible to gain financial stability in the midst of chaos?
Yeah, that's an amazing question, Cheryl. And I really think it depends on where you are. Like, what is your start point? If you are an individual who has, I have a 401k, I may have some investments, I have some property, I have an emergency fund, I have credit cards, my credit score is decent. We have a lot of options. And so that definitely can vary on the person. But I will tell you, the last place that we want to go into for those resources is anything associated with your retirement. It's good to meet with someone who can identify and assess everything from a numerical perspective, from a tax perspective, from an IRS penalty perspective, before you pull money out of places that are supposed to be for your future. And so if you don't have the emergency fund built, which is the primary resource for a lot of things, well, maybe we can look at a personal loan. Maybe we can look at a credit card and find a really good rate. But that's not the end point, right? So we may charge or we may get the loan, and then we got to identify what the payback plan is. How are we going to get rid of this debt effectively? And so different periods of life definitely occur. And we can't always predict what those things are. But again, working with someone to help you manage the stress so that you don't make emotional decisions when life does life is one of the ways you can help protect yourself. So, Cheryl, I have one more thing to add. Everyone is not in the same place. And I thought a lot about what you said with respect to, is there hope or is it even possible? Um, and I hesitated on that question because it makes me emotional. I grew up in a single parent home, and if I judged my future opportunities on that current situation, it would have been hopeless for me. But I was able to watch my mom sacrifice and go into the military because there were days that we were not able to eat. I was able to watch my mom work 3 jobs to make sure that we had what we needed during the school year. Everything wasn't pretty. I wore my brother's clothes mostly throughout high school until I was able to get a job. But it became almost like a family affair to make sure that we could survive as a family. And I'm definitely not advertising and advocating for kids to do this. But what I'm saying is, I watched her strength and I watched her ability to not give up. And I watched her make decisions that I may not have understood at the time. But what she did allowed me to be where I am today. I also know what it feels like because I was in the very scenarios that we're talking about, trying to figure out how to have a career and raise children, and money is going everywhere and you have no choice but to take care of your responsibilities. And so what do you do? And that answer is going to vary for every woman that is listening. But I do employ hope. I do want them to know that anything is possible. And there's not a day that I don't thank God for the opportunities that He's provided to me, to my family, to my mother, who is the greatest support and motivation that I have in my life, because there's no reason that we should have made it, right? Under those circumstances, from the outside looking in, we weren't supposed to. But God provided a way, and I am forever thankful. And so to the woman that is listening, there always will be, place your trust in the one who can, because even despite what you can see right now, faith will take you farther than your finances.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. So with all that you've shared and all that you explained to us, if there's anyone listening, how can they contact you? Are you accepting new clients? And how can we continue to get right within our financial journey?
Thank you so much for that, Cheryl. Of course, you can reach me by searching Paris Jackson Financial Advisor and select the link for Northwestern Mutual. And I am accepting clients, but more so I'm accepting mindset. Anybody who has the desire to be in a better place than where they are now is anyone I'm willing to work with.
Now, before we wrap, I want to end this conversation with something a little different, something that goes beyond your professional title, your accomplishments, and even your rewards. For Women's Month, I want to highlight the essence of who we are as women, not just what we do. So without mentioning any of the things you've achieved in life, I want you to say, I am her, and fill in the blank.
Oh, I love that. I am her, Cheryl. I am you. I am us. I am a provider. I am a wife. I am a mother. I am a sister. I am a friend. I am a survivor. I am a person who's overcome fear and anxiety. I am the person who will stand by your side when you need it the most. I am a resource, and I am a woman.